One direct competitor of us, they went bankrupt a couple of months ago, and I was very afraid of them, honestly.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Lorenzo, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation.
You're the co-founder and managing director at Linia, a startup which manufactures drone software for power line inspection. And I wonder, first of all, what actually motivated you to start your own company in the first place?
Well, actually, I'm not that type that has ever wanted to have an own company. It kind of was brought to me during my last job I had, and I saw an opportunity, something that can be done better than it's being done today. So yeah, that was my main motivation.
But if you did not want to start your own company, to then take the plunge and actually say, yeah, now I actually do start my own company despite all my will of not wanting that, how do you manage that?
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, it's fascinating. Once you think about, yeah, maybe you could do your own company, then you start thinking a bit more. And then what also, I mean, fascinates me in this business, especially, we have that power lines, which is kind of traditional engineering. And I've been doing that for now 12 years. And on the other side, there is that rising new technologies like drones and software in general. And I think the combination of these two, yeah, that's also something that motivates me.
So it's really your personal interest about the topic and seeing something that can be done better that draw you into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And can you walk us through the specific problem that you solve with Linia?
Yes, maybe I have to give you and the audience a little context because it's very much a niche where we are working. So in general, I mean, power grids is our business, and we see that there is a lot of pressures for the operators of power grids because I mean there are several reasons. One reason is the environmental aspects that you have weather impacts that are getting more important. You have more storms and stuff that are a threat for the power lines. I mean, for example, like it was in 2018, there was a big storm at the Albula Pass, and 4 towers collapsed there.
Wow.
So that was pretty bad, and I think that's something that we see more in the future, like more weather influence. One other thing is that electricity in general becomes more important because the decarbonization of the whole energy branch, and that of course brings more traffic on the existing grid. And then there are a couple of grid-specific things, like, for example, if you want to rebuild a power line, an old power line, you get a lot of resistance from the communities because no one wants a power line in the backyard. Mm-hmm. So if you want to build a new one from scratch, it's almost impossible. But even if you want to, do the old one, just renew it, it's still a big struggle. Then the power grid in general is pretty old. Vast part of it, I mean, at least I would say in the Western world, was built in the middle of the last century. So they have an age of like 50, 70 years, something like this. So you have to rebuild it, of course. And yeah, growing energy demand, it's difficult to grow it because of resistance. And then one thing I learned during the last 12 years is also that if you do maintenance work at power grids, the shutdown windows where you can actually do the work, it gets shorter and shorter, because there is just more traffic on the power grids. And that's a lot of pressure for the power grid owners. And in addition to that, I mean, they own like thousands of power grid towers and power lines, and they do inspection like every year. Sometimes, I mean, normally they walk along or drive along the lines and they take notes. Mm-hmm. From time to time, they fly with a helicopter. And I mean, that's okay, but in the end, you don't have very much transparency of the whole grid. And yeah, what we offer with our software is that we can give them more transparency, so that when they have to do maintenance work, they do actually those things that are most important. So they have just more transparency over their assets.
It sounds like a very niche, but also a very pressuring problem that you're solving there to make it more efficient and also less labor intense to a certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Of course, you don't walk that path alone. You also have a team in your company. So what experience does your team bring to the table to solve that problem and make your company a reality, basically, day by day? Mm.
Yeah, well, I mean, myself, I have the whole experience in the power grid section. So I know very much what the customer needs. In the end, we need to do software. So we have the software skills to do that. So I'm very happy that I could win Bernhard, who is my partner and co-founder. I mean, we studied together, but I went to the energy branch, and he's been spending all his time in software. And he did like first at university, and then he moved on to a startup for natural hazards, and then for a big company doing international rail safety software. And now he ended up with me doing drone software. So, I mean, he's that kind of guy that you just give him a technical problem and he just solves it. So
that's a very good skill of a co-founder to have. Mm-hmm. You also are very active in the market. You are growing with a company. You are currently bootstrapped. And I also wonder what milestones, what important achievements have you recently achieved with your company?
Well, the most important that we did just this month is that we acquired the first international paying customer. So
nice. Congrats on that one.
Thanks.
That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, we have done during the year a lot of POC with several companies, mostly in Switzerland, but also internationally. And so now, yeah, it's like to the end of the year, it's very great to see that actually, there is a problem that we solve. So yeah,
I think there's a saying by Mark Cuban. He always says, "Revenue cures it all." So no matter how hard you worked for it, how difficult it was to get the software off the ground, or whatever problems or issues you had to solve along the way, if you get the paying clients, if you make some revenue, you're going to be happy at the end of the day, most likely. Mm. And you've also recently been awarded with the Public Choice Award at the Energy Startup Day 2021. Do you think that these awards are helpful for you as a startup company, or what impact does such an award have for you?
Well, I will see. I mean, it's the first award that we won. So far, I mean, I always think about, do I spend the hours on customers or on other things like, going to startup events. Honestly, so far, it was not very motivating, all those startup events, because it was a lot of work, but without any rewards. Mm-hmm. Now, for the first time, we won something. So, I will see. Yeah.
How does it feel to win such an award for the very first time?
It's of course, it's great. Yeah.
It can also be quite a motivation boost, right?
I mean,
this recognition.
It was quite unexpected. It was like, I think it's the third or fourth time that we went to the Energy Startup Day, and so far we were never like mentioned too much or so. Mm-hmm. And now it was surprising that we actually won. So yeah, very motivating.
Consistency pays off, I would say. Now, of course, you also are active in a competitive environment. So I also wonder, how does that competitive landscape look on the market side? Do you have any direct competitors that you compete with, or do you have any substitutes, or maybe the company is just doing it manually by flying the helicopter or walking by the power grids for the inspection? Who is your biggest competitor from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, some companies that are doing similar things, I consider them more than partners than competitors. But of course, there are a couple of drone software providers that are now maybe doing some kind of the same thing, but most of them, they just provide inspection software for general purposes. And what defines us is that we only have power line inspection, but we do that very well because we have the insights. And I think that's our strength, that we really know the business. We do not know any other business, but this one we know very well. Yeah.
So in that regard, you basically differentiate by offering a better quality with your software than potential competitors in the market.
Yeah, I mean, we are faster. When we are talking to a customer, we know in a minute what they really want because we know. I mean, I've been in the position of the customer for the last years.
Absolutely. And has this niche focus, I think it's a huge advantage because you exactly have your knowledge, you know who your buyer persona is, who your ideal customer is. Has this ever been a drawback or a challenge for you along the process so far?
I mean, we've talked to some people, and they said, "Oh, you're just doing power lines. Don't you want to do any other things?" I mean, so far, I mean, what is maybe difficult is that we have from the beginning we have to go international. Mm-hmm. Switzerland is far too small. Fortunately, there are countries all around us that are from a culture not too far away. So, and during the COVID pandemic, the whole let's say having meetings online is just a natural thing. So it's easy just to talk to potential customers all over the world. Yeah, but yeah, you have to learn new cultures all over the world very quickly.
Yeah, that's the challenge of going international. Today's episode is brought to you by Relay. Relay is a Bitcoin-only investment app from Switzerland, available on Android and iOS, that gives everyone an easy and secure way to invest in Bitcoin with minimal barriers to entry. No deposit, KYC verification, or registration is required. After you download the app, just choose the amount of euros or Swiss francs you want to invest and make the payment using a bank transfer. That's it. You can start with as little as 10 euros or Swiss franc and pay 0% transaction fees until the end of 2021. Alternatively, you can automate this process by starting a weekly or monthly savings plan and buy Bitcoin at regular intervals. To learn more, head over to relay.ch/ambassadors/Swisspreneur and buy Bitcoin with Relay, Europe's easiest Bitcoin investment app. Another thing that I also wonder if that was a challenge for you, the combination of sort of hardware and software. Of course, you focus on the software part, but still there is a hardware component with the drones and also the inspection itself. Was that ever a challenge for you?
Well, in the beginning, we didn't even know what we will be doing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, since I'm coming from the power grids itself, I just knew there's going to be a new business there. But many things are involved. Like, yeah, as you said, there is drones involved. There's even the drone itself has different parts, like the payloads, the different cameras and stuff, or not only cameras, but also like LiDAR, things like this. And I mean, first it was a challenge to find out what we actually will be doing. But then during talking to customer, it became more and more clear what we will be doing, what we can do. And I mean, in the end, yeah, there is a lot of hardware out there. What I like about our strategy that is just we can integrate all of it. We have to stay open. Of course, it's a lot of work to be open for different kind of hardware, but that's also one of the interesting parts. I mean, also we are now talking to different hardware suppliers, and that makes it interesting for me. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is a really fascinating problem that you mentioned there, right? We didn't know what we were actually building at the beginning. I think many startups face a similar problem. They try to validate and they don't know which way they should go and eventually also which way they should pivot to. Do you have any tips on how you manage that to then find sort of a product market fit to really find the right problem to solve with your company?
You have to try, basically.
Yeah.
First, try to think hard and speak to customers for a certain time, but then you have to do something, maybe for a couple of months, build something and show it to your customer, and then you get feedback. You need to get feedback, and then you realize what could solve a problem or where there is a problem at all.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And when was the right time when he then said, okay, now we are certain enough and now we actually start building the software in your case? Did you do any, pre-contracts with potential clients, or what gave you the confidence to say, okay, it's actually worth investing time and money into the actual development of the product?
I think we had two important Swiss customers that we could do a small project with, and we had like a small prototype. And they said, that looks good. If that would be more elaborated, then that might have a future. And then it was clear for us, okay, that's where we're going now.
Nice. And did you use their interest as a pre-finance method to already get some money in the bank to pay yourself a salary and to pay for development? Or how do you solve that?
Well, no, first we had like more than one job. Yeah, I had to provide for my family. So I worked part-time for utility and part-time for that company. Yeah. And yeah, fortunate enough, like 1.5 years ago, I could quit the other job and now work full-time for my company. Nice.
And, talking about family, I could imagine that's also quite a challenge to be an entrepreneur, but also to have and spend enough time with your family and be there for them. How do you balance entrepreneurship with your family life?
Well, maybe I'm lucky enough to be in the right business to do that. It's not very fast. Our customers, they are very traditional and they have a lot of infrastructure they have to handle. So they are not very fast to implement new solutions, which gives me the opportunity that I don't have to work 200 hours a week. That I think I can be successful. So, yeah, for me, I'm now 35. I have come close to, I have had like burnout symptoms like 1.5 or 2 years ago. And I realized what is really important for me. And I think it's important. I want to do my startup, but on the other hand, I don't want to destroy everything else that I have. I don't want to risk my marriage, things like this. So how we do handle it, I also have a wife who is ambitious with her job, of course. We have one child. The second one is coming in a couple of months.
Oh, nice.
So, I spend one day with my child, and that must work. Yeah. And so far it's good, but it's very important to me to have that time. And yeah, so far it went well. Yeah, we will see where it's going.
Fair point. Eventually you will probably work more than in a regular job, but at least as an entrepreneur you have that flexibility to also accommodate for family life and basically work whenever and from wherever you basically want to a certain degree, right?
That's true, but in the end, it's the customer who tells you when and where to work. And fortunate enough, that's what I mentioned. I think we have the right customers. So far, it didn't matter for them if I hold the meeting on Friday or on the next Tuesday. So it's kind of, they're flexible.
That's great. And you also don't have any investors on board yet. So I also wonder, was that a conscious decision? Because also I can imagine if once you get investors on board, they might have a different view on your workload and the work-life balance that you currently set up for yourself. Was that a conscious decision to say, hey, our work-life balance is more important to us than having investors on board? Or was it a different reason why you decided to not have investors on board yet?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons. I mean, maybe if there are investors out there that are compliant with our company culture, then yeah, you're very welcome. But the other thing is, I saw one direct competitor of us, they went bankrupt a couple of months ago, and I was very afraid of them, honestly, because they put a lot of power into it. I saw them kind of being very active, and maybe I'm not sure if investors would be patient enough with the pace that we can offer or our customers can offer. So it takes a lot of time to convince them. And that was the other reasons. I'm not sure if we find an investor that has enough patience.
That's really interesting. So to a certain degree, what you're saying is your competitor who was venture-backed with investors, they basically ran out of time because they had probably pressure from the investors, or then also ramped up the team size and also their burn rate. And due to the very long sales cycle, they didn't make it in the end. And you staying bootstrapped, getting fully financed by your clients, you basically have way more time and a more relaxed way of going about that and can just take the patience that your clients need to close.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in the end, there still might be some competitor which has both money and time.
Right. Yeah. And in that regard, I also wonder, did you ever have to make any tough trade-offs by being bootstrapped? Because I can imagine, you probably have to cut your salary to pay yourself out less than you probably would with a VC-backed investor. Any other tough trade-offs that you faced during that time?
I mean, I mentioned the near burnout.
Yeah.
That maybe was also because I had 2 jobs. It's the salary that, we have a salary, but it's not too high, but it's good enough to survive. Yeah.
And then you eventually realize that you don't even need that much in life to have a good life, right?
That's true, yeah.
I also wondered, the burnout that you mentioned, how do you then avoid it to completely get into the burnout and get out healthy again and stay on track?
Yeah, well, I worked less for maybe for half a year. I kept working, but just a little less.
Like how much less?
1 day.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sound like too much difference from the outside perspective. It worked for you.
Yeah, it worked for me, yeah.
Did you do anything else? Like, did you get any outside help, or did you talk to anyone to manage through that process?
My wife.
Yeah, I mean,
that was important to me too. I mean, I think I did that online Google. I Googled one test where you can check if you have like a lot of burnout symptoms, and it was like 15 points out of 20 where it was like alarming. And then I knew like, okay, maybe I have to slow down a little. Yeah. But I mean that was enough.
You just acquired your first international client. I mean, that also gives you a boost to pull through.
Definitely, yeah.
So that being said, first international client acquired, the Energy Startup Public Award that you just won. What is next for you for the future? What have you planned for the next 12 months?
I mentioned that we did a lot of proof of concept this year. And our customers, they have proof of concepts, it's like small projects, and let's say 100 or 200 power line towers, but they own like 10,000 of towers. And the goal for the next year is to scale that we actually do a grid wide, that we provided the whole system for the whole grid.
Yeah, I guess you want to do the upsell and then also go and switch to recurring revenue, I could imagine, right? Great. So exciting future ahead. And before we wrap up today's episode, we also have some rapid fire questions prepared for you. So I either give you a short question or a selection, and then you can answer in 1 sentence. Are you ready?
All right.
What was your summer job as a teenager?
Once I worked for like what is it called? The job service. And I worked for gardening for old people, and helping to move. And in the end of the holidays, I could afford a skateboard.
Nice. I'm sure that has also been very motivating to work towards that skateboard purchase. What are you most proud of in your life?
I mean, from a professional perspective, it is that I from scratch built that company, not alone with partners, but that we have now something that has some value.
Mm-hmm. Apple or Google?
Apple, definitely.
That's an easy choice. Where do you go to think?
Jogging in the woods.
Nice. And the last one for you today, lake or mountains?
I love both.
So probably a lake in the mountains then.
Yeah, mountain lake. Definitely. No, but if I have to pick, it's probably mountains.
Yeah. Is that your happy place?
Yeah, one of them, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Lorenzo, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you all the best and lots of success with Linia in the future and hope to see you again here very soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks for the invitation.
This episode was brought to you by Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch.